In 1800, Edo was the largest city in the world. Over 1 million people. Bigger than London. Bigger than Paris. Bigger than any city in Europe. And it burned to the ground. Regularly. Not once. Not twice. Major fires tore through the city roughly every decade. Sometimes more often. And at some point, nobody is sure exactly when, the residents of this enormous, flammable city started calling fires Edo no hana. The flowers of Edo. This is a story about a city that stopped trying to prevent disaster and started treating it like a way of life. To understand why Edo burned, you have to understand what Edo was made of. Wood. All of it. The buildings, the floors, the walls, the roofs, wood. And not thick, heavy timber. Light, flexible wood. Fast to build with. Cheap to replace. The walls were paper. Sliding doors made of paper stretched over a wooden frame. The windows, paper. Inside, people cooked on charcoal fires. Heated with charcoal fires. Lit their homes with oil lamps. It is, in retrospect, slightly surprising this city existed at all. And then there was the wind. Edo sits in a low basin. In winter, dry winds blow in from the northwest. The air loses all its moisture. The wood dries out. The paper dries out. And the city waits. In this environment, a single knocked-over lamp, one accident, one cooking fire that got away from someone, could take out a city block in minutes. Edo had narrow streets. Buildings packed together so tightly that a single burning structure could reach out and touch 4 neighboring ones before anyone had time to react. The shogunate knew this. Their solution? They made the streets slightly wider in some areas. Problem solved. On the 18th of January, 1657, Edo experienced what would become its worst disaster. The Meireki Fire. The exact cause is disputed. The most famous story, which may be legend, involves a furisode. A long-sleeved kimono, the kind worn by unmarried young women. This particular kimono had supposedly been worn by 3 different girls, all of whom died young while owning it. So a Buddhist temple held a ceremony to burn it properly. To put the spirit to rest. The kimono caught a gust of wind mid-ceremony. What followed burned for 3 days. An estimated 100,000 people died. Possibly more. Historians debate the number. Nobody disputes it was catastrophic. For context, the Great Fire of London burned 9 years later, in 1666. It destroyed 13,000 homes and left 70,000 people homeless. It killed 6 people. The Meireki Fire killed 100,000. When it was over, roughly 60% of Edo was gone. The castle's main tower, the visual symbol of shogunate authority, burned to the ground. And then the shogunate did something interesting. They didn't build the castle tower back. They decided the money was better spent elsewhere. And the city? The city started rebuilding immediately. Edo had professional firefighters. They were called tobi, literally, kite. Fast. Agile. Good at heights. They climbed burning buildings with ease. And they didn't carry water. This is important. Edo's firefighters didn't fight fires by pouring water on them. They fought fires by creating fire breaks, deliberately demolishing buildings ahead of the fire's path before the flames could reach them. Their primary tools weren't buckets. They were hooks. Long wooden poles with iron hooks on the end, designed to pull down walls and collapse roofs. The logic was, if you destroy enough buildings in the fire's path, you starve it of fuel. It reaches the gap and dies. The problem with this approach, as you may have noticed, is that you are destroying buildings. On purpose. To save other buildings. The people whose buildings you just destroyed did not always appreciate the distinction. There were neighborhoods where residents actively fought the firefighters, not the firefighters, to prevent their homes from being deliberately demolished. And yet, this was the system. And it mostly worked. Mostly. The fires still spread. The fires still killed people. But a city of 1 million people with no running water, no fire trucks, no concrete, and no metal roofs managed to keep functioning. By accepting that some of it would always burn. Here is the part that stays with you. Edo burned repeatedly. The residents knew it. They built the city knowing it. They furnished their homes knowing it. They stored valuables in fireproof stone storehouses, kara, because they assumed, eventually, the house would burn. And they called fires Edo no hana. The flowers of Edo. It's dark humor. But it's also something else. There's a concept in Japanese culture, mono no aware, and acceptance of impermanence. The cherry blossoms are beautiful partly because they fall. The tea bowl is precious partly because it will eventually break. Edo residents applied this logic to their entire city. Buildings were light and cheap by design. Not because people were poor. Wealthy Edo merchants lived in expensive, beautiful homes that happened to be made of wood and paper. They were light because they were meant to be rebuilt. After the Meireki Fire, the shogunate rebuilt the city with slightly wider streets. Residents rebuilt their homes faster than before. The population recovered within a generation. The city wasn't more fireproof. It was more resilient. There's a difference. You can spend enormous resources trying to prevent the thing that will happen anyway. Or you can build systems that recover from it quickly. Edo chose the second option. And every time it burned, it rebuilt. The last great fire of Edo burned in 1923, except by then it wasn't a fire. It was an earthquake, followed by fire. The Great Kanto Earthquake. Roughly 100,000 people died. Tokyo rebuilt. The logic that shaped Edo still ran underneath the city: build light, build fast, build again. Today, Tokyo is one of the most earthquake-prepared cities in the world. Modern buildings are designed to flex, not stand rigid. The city doesn't try to stop earthquakes. It absorbs them. Somewhere in there is the same philosophy that led 1 million people to call fires flowers. Not denial. Not defeat. Just a very long-running, very expensive, very Japanese decision to keep rebuilding. Speaking of things the shogunate did that made no logical sense, in the next video, we're going back to the policy that bankrupted Japan's own military class. And what happened when 250 years of control finally fell apart.